Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Senator Pratt, I was listening quite attentively, and I find it very interesting that all of a sudden you've had this profound interest in the Public Prosecution Service of Canada. You know, you mentioned in your speech about the interpretation of the truth. Where we come from as parliamentarians on this side, the truth is only one. It's not open to interpretation. Unfortunately, over the last couple of months on the other side of the House, there's been a Prime Minister and a Prime Minister's office and a clerk of the Privy Council, unfortunately, who all they've been doing is interpreting the truth. And that's why we have today more questions than we have answers. And that's why after more than 2 months in this unfortunate affair where we have a Prime Minister of Canada being accused of obstruction of justice, the media on a daily basis and the Canadian public are still asking difficult questions they don't have answers to. All we've gotten from the other side is we've lost the top member of the civil service in a resignation, a guy who had the opportunity of going twice before a committee of justice of the House. We lost the principal secretary and the senior most advisor to the Prime Minister, who's had the opportunity to express himself twice to that Justice Committee. And we have the Attorney General, who's at the core of this whole issue, who herself systematically has brought evidence forward where she's pushed back. It's not a question, I'm on debate. So,
Senators, I have recognized Senator Housakis on debate. He's not building up to a question. He's actually on debate. Senator Housakis.
Mr. Speaker, in due time, eventually we'll all learn the rules in this place. And more importantly, in due time, the government will also learn the rules of the essential element of our parliament, the separation of the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive. And at the end of the day, that's the game that's being played here, Senator Pratt. We have a government and a Prime Minister that has encroached upon the most serious principles of this Parliament. He has had 23 successors before him. Not one has ever been accused of this most egregious crime and breach of a parliamentary principle. Not one. 150 years, not one Attorney General, not one Minister of Justice has ever accused the Prime Minister of interfering in a criminal prosecution case. This is the first time. And we have a parliament in place on the other side with a majority government that is hindering the Committee of Justice of that parliament of asking the difficult questions to whomever the committee wants to bring before them. And Senator Paulette has put forward a motion here that is very reasonable. And the people of Canada, the media in this country are crying for justice and are crying for clarity. And all we've had here for a number of weeks from Trudeau-appointed senators and from the government leader is using procedural attempts, we know what they are, points of order, and getting up in order to drag this motion out and prevent it from actually being exercised, and calling the players that have been accused of a very serious breach to come before a Senate committee, yes, an independent one, where Trudeau-appointed senators will have the majority on it and have their opportunity to show how independent they actually are, and ask the questions to the former Attorney General and any other witnesses that we think would be able to shed light on this particular issue. Now, I will just conclude because I have a lot to say on this issue and I want to prepare a speech. But I want to say the Public Prosecution Office of Canada has been around for a long time. The Ministry of Justice has been around for a long time. Our process in changing the rules of how the Ministry of Justice works are clear. The Cabinet, the Minister, with the officials of Justice Department, can table legislation in the House of Commons, can send that legislation for proper and thorough debate at the Committee of Justice, can get it through the House of Commons, get it over to the upper chamber, send it to a standing committee that we have here, Justice Senate Committee, that's been around for years and is very respected. And how many times is our Justice Committee's work being quoted in the Supreme Court of Canada through the years? Even more often than that work of the House of Commons Justice Committee. So we don't need a special committee. Just because Justin Trudeau showed up and he doesn't know how the rules of Parliament work, we're going to create special committees. We're going to infringe upon the rights and privileges of the Justice Committee of the House and the Justice Committee of the Senate because Justin Trudeau just doesn't agree with it. He's had a track record of when he does things that are egregious to the rules of Parliament, he changes them. The government leader, we summon him as the government leader to the Senate, but he'll be modeled as the representative. But he summoned him as the government leader because those are the rules. So Colleagues, this is again another example of games that are being played in this chamber in order to circle the wagon, to defend a Prime Minister that has done something the Canadian public, the press, and people for weeks have been calling upon him to respond to clearly and unequivocally. So, Mr. Speaker, I think a number of senators in this side of the chamber have a lot to say on this, and that's why I will ask to take adjournment for the balance of my time.